Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Central for the folks who live other places. But thank you again so much for watching. You can find us on the radio, icradio.media, television everywhere. You can find us on channel 182, and that's Charter Communications locally right here in North Alabama. Then you can also find us on Abundance Television, which is syndicated, and that's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast, thenewscasters.com. Oh, and by the way, if you have ideas for shows, and you know folks do have ideas for shows, and because you're the boss of me, you tell me what to do, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the emails you send as well. But if you have ideas for shows, some research you would like for me to do for you, I'm the geek in school that always likes to stay in the library. So please send those. I would love to do some research for you. Donna at donnasedge.com is my email address. That's Donna at donnasedge.com. I have a very special friend with me right now. And you know what? We've known each other how many years now?
At least 10.
I would say it's been at least 10 years.
Yeah.
DeJoly is with me right now. DeJoly is an author, a speaker. You do all kinds of wonderful things. I've learned a lot about gardening from her.
Yeah.
And the okra seed, you remember the okra seed you gave me? And this is what I told her. So she got it, 2 years ago, and we're about to have a show. And DeJoly says, well, there's not much, but here are seeds. And I said, are you kidding me? The life is a seed. I mean,
Right.
That's where it all begins, right?
That's right.
So, and I mentioned this to you once. So I had this guy, he's a financial analyst. He was on the show one day, and he was talking about, he's bought some gold, and he's bought this, and he's bought that, and which is a wonderful thing. I mean, you really need to think financially about the future. You really need to. And I said, I got you beat. And he said, how? And I said, see that freezer over there? And he said, yeah. And I said, it's full of seeds. You can't eat that block of gold.
But you can't eat what comes from seeds.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So let's talk about seeds just for a few minutes. That's the foundation of everything, right?
And seeds, I plant seeds in people's minds. I don't have to have an actual seed, but just to give them a little tidbit of something they can be thinking about, which will change their whole lives. Their mindsets get shifted, their perspectives change, and it's all about just planting that little seed.
And we all need that because, I mean, everybody has some situation in their life. And it could be anything. It could be a divorce. It could be maybe family members you can't get along with, which has been a huge help to me, by the way. And so, I mean, it just happens. It's just life.
Yes.
And how to deal with it. So could you deal with it by yelling at the other person, or are there other ways you can do it?
It wouldn't do any good to yell at them. But you could.
You can't fix it, can
No,
you?
you can't fix it. It's kind of like you can't fix stupid,
Yeah.
You just didn't want to say that, right?
I have said it.
But yeah, yelling doesn't really fix it. But if you plant a seed of something they can think differently about, or be different in yourself, and they see that and they might want to emulate that. But also, you can always walk away. You don't have to be
That's
a
the
part
best
of that
situation
Yeah.
I've found. So sometimes my ideas don't really align with other people's ideas, and I've had some folks who have said, people in my community have done this, and so they want to start an argument with me on Facebook or any kind of social media site. I have all the social media sites. You can't get away from me if you tried. And so it can be anything. I mean, it can be Alabama Auburn. I mean, we fight big
that's a
here.
big one here. Those are fighting words.
But let me tell you something. I'm an Auburn fan. My better half is actually an Alabama fan. If we can make that marriage work, anything can work. So, but I had one person in particular, and he disagreed with me on something politically. And he said he wanted me to argue back with him, and I just wouldn't do it. And I just kept saying, I love you. And that drove him nuts because he wanted me to argue with him. And he said, we just can't agree on anything. He said, so I'm taking you off. We're not going to be friends on Facebook anymore. He said this 1,000 times. And I said, okay, bye. Like that. But I love you anyway. And then he kept me on because he wished me a happy birthday just a few months later after that. But I think it's okay to have differences. I mean, I don't like myself that much. I wouldn't want to be around anybody who likes everything I liked. I mean, there needs to be some sort, just kind of keeps the mind going, don't you
Hmm.
think?
I do. I think there's a lot of benefits of being around people that are different from you.
Hmm.
Diversity is great,
I love it.
right? And it keeps you young, keeps you
Hmm.
thinking, keeps you
Hmm.
open, unless you decide that you want to close down. Now you can decide that. You know, everything is your decision. You're free to decide whatever you want,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's important to have diversity,
Mhm.
not have everything the same. Otherwise, it would be very boring.
Yeah. Oh, it would be a very
Very
boring
boring.
life. So my grandparents, who'd been married 67 years,
Ooh-wee.
when my granddad passed away, he had cancer, and she
Mhm,
didn't live very much longer after that. She mourned.
mhm,
Really, they were a couple really in love. So growing up, I thought, because my parents, it was a divorce and argument all the time throughout our entire
mhm,
lifetime,
mhm.
but I never saw my grandparents argue. And I was like, and so I asked my grandmother one time. I said, "Do you ever have a difference of opinion?" She said, "Of course we do. You think we never argue?" And I said, "I've never seen you argue." She said, "That's a private thing." She said, "That's
Interesting.
between us."
Mhm.
And she said, and sometimes I just start little arguments. And I said, "Why do you start little arguments?" She said, "So we can make
Oh.
up." So, I mean, even with, I mean, everything is going to be different. I mean, like I love to garden. Well, Phil has different ideas on how to plant seeds than I have on
Mhm,
planting seeds. But you have to understand the soil. You have to
mhm,
understand, is it clay? Is it,
mhm,
quicksand, which is what we have right here, is all sandy soil. So we had to sit down, we had to analyze it, we had to figure out, get a soil test done, by the way,
oh
get it
yeah,
done at
oh
your
yeah.
extension office in whatever county you live
Mhm,
in the whole United States. Get that done. But then we had a meeting of the minds. And I think that's important with any
mhm,
relationship,
mhm,
meeting
mhm.
of the minds.
I do too, and there's always a compromise. You can always
Mhm.
compromise. And yes, there are things that each of you has as a specialty,
Mhm.
and oftentimes male and females, the big difference, they
You're
men
kidding. We're different,
like
really?
like from Venus and Mars.
That's true.
But yeah, there are lots of differences, and if you can come to some sort of compromise and have a sit down, and some people say come to Jesus meeting, but to actually have a conversation.
Mhm.
Conversations are only what we make them out to be. Like
Mhm.
you can make anything negative,
Yeah.
but in the
Anything.
in this in the way that you want to work together, and if your goal is to have a smooth running marriage,
Mhm.
you sit down and you have conversations, and they can be
I
difficult.
prefer. Yeah.
I prefer having conversations
Mhm.
as opposed to hiding
Mhm.
and hiding your feelings, because then
Mhm.
you know that you aren't being true to yourself.
Mhm.
And so they aren't really loving all of you. They're only loving the part that you're allowing them to
Mhm.
see.
Yeah.
So in a marriage, you have to be completely open and honest.
Mhm. Yeah, you do. And I'm really glad that I listened to Phil on this one particular thing. So I was a member of a group in Charlotte, North Carolina. We lived there for 9 years, and so we got this. It was a bill through the IRS said we owed $10,000.
Mhm.
So now it's all in how you present it. Okay, the presentation is really important here. So I called the IRS. Did I yell at the person who answered the phone?
No.
No, you don't do that, because first of all, they didn't do it. They're just answering
Mhm.
the phone. They're trying to make life easier on, but they're the mediator, the
Mhm.
person right there in the middle.
Mhm.
And so I said, I don't know what this is about, because we took care of everything when we sold this business. So everything's taken
Mhm.
care of. She said, "Oh, this is a guesstimate." And I said, "What's a guesstimate?" And she said, "Well, we didn't get, it was W-2s we didn't send in," she said. And I happened to remember that my husband always took care of the paperwork. You don't rely on Donna for paperwork, okay? It won't get done. I'm out there talking to people. That's what I do best. So we moved from Charlotte, and there were boxes of IRS stuff. I mean, from the years. And I said, they only go back 7 years. Don't worry about that. Just throw it away. If you want a burn pile, do something with it. Just
Mhm.
shred it, get rid of it. And he said, no, I'm keeping it. And I said, fill those boxes of stuff. We're downsizing. It's a smaller house. I don't have room to put all those boxes of IRS receipts and all that stuff in. He said, I'm keeping it. I said, okay, that's just going to be more junk to pile up. I'm glad he didn't listen to me, because he kept all this stuff. By the way, they did go back past 7 years.
Oh,
They will go back.
wow.
So, and I'm being very kind when I'm saying this, IRS folks. So he actually had, and proof of where he sent in the W-2s for all the employees we had.
Hmm.
And so they said, well, it's kind of like you have to prove you're innocent, because they're going to send the bill. So all we had to do was fax it again. So, and I said, can't we just scan it and do it email? I don't trust the fax machine and all that. They still do stuff the old fashioned way sometimes. So we went ahead, copies, sent it in, and then they said they didn't get it. And I said, oh, we're going to go through this again. Well, I'm a little more headstrong the next time I talk to them. I said, no, look, we went through a lot of effort to send this to you guys.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I said, I'm trying to be really kind because I know that you didn't do it. You personally did not receive the mail that day or whatever.
Hmm.
So that person actually let me scan it and then had email confirmation where they got it. So instead of owing $10,000, we owed zip.
Yay.
Now, what if Phil had listened to me on this? I thought I knew it all. I thought that, 7 years, they're not going to go
That's
past
what we're
that.
always told, 7 years.
No, so he knew something I didn't know. Maybe in a past life he went through 10 years or something. But anyway, sometimes that other person has a pretty good argument. Let's
Hmm.
just not call it an argument. Let's just call it a meeting of the minds.
There you go.
So we had this, and so this is what he said. Got something you need to tell me? I said, yes. Thank you for not listening to me. Thank you very much. It would cost us $10,000.
Uh-huh.
But they actually said it started out at $2,000, but interest and penalties out of all those
Oh
years
my
caused it to
gosh.
be.
Oh my
But anyway,
gosh.
this is a goose egg. We don't know
Yeah,
anything.
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Oh.
but sometimes what seems senseless to me or to him, we have to sit back and look at that other person.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, do I do it every single time? No, I have to be reminded because Phil will go, remember the IRS deal? And I'll go, okay,
Oh.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm there on it. But sometimes it's for our own good.
Hmm. I think that you know we were talking on the way over here about having differences of opinion and allowing each other to have those differences of opinion,
Mhm.
and that some things are logical, they're understandable, they should be this way, or they ought to be this way, but they aren't. And how much do you want to argue and put yourself out there in order for that your voice, your one voice, to matter? When all really, like, it goes back to love,
Mhm.
that the only thing that changes anything is love. And
Is
and
it worth it?
and
I mean,
it isn't really worth your energy, because it saps your energy
mhm.
to argue with something that's really of no consequences to you.
Mhm.
It may be to somebody else,
Mhm.
but not to you particularly. But
Mhm.
you're the one who's incurring all of the harsh
Mhm.
energy
Mhm.
zapping, right?
Mhm.
So, but it means that you have to be able to let things go,
Mhm.
and that isn't always easy for people.
No, not when you're a driver and your husband is also a driver. I mean, that can be difficult. But sometimes is it important to because sometimes there is an issue you have to take good care of.
Hmm. Hmm.
But sometimes can you just choose your battles? Can you just decide this
Definitely.
is good, this is useless, forget it? I
Hmm.
mean, can you just
Oh yeah,
be that
you have
person?
to choose your battles always. Yeah. Because sometimes sometimes you may be able to make a difference,
Mm-hmm.
but in most cases, when it's a larger scale thing, you one vote doesn't make a
Mm-hmm.
difference, and one idea doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And how much are you going to stew over it? How much are you going to
Mm-hmm.
waste your energy and your time and your emotions
Mm-hmm.
wrapping it up in your head, putting a bow on it and handing it to them, and they just flick it
Mm-hmm.
away? So you want to make sure that your battles are going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to do something, make sure that in the end you can come out with a
Mm-hmm.
positive attitude.
Well, and then sometimes there can be a two-sided issue, and sometimes it happens in the government all the time. But 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 sometimes I'm not for either side.
Hmm.
Because there's some people say I just don't like people from other countries. My daughter-in-law is from Russia, and she has brought so much wonderful things into our life. I love Russian cooking, by the way.
Mm.
And I mean, she has brought so many wonderful, positive things. Now, I do agree you should try to be an American citizen as much as you possibly can. It's a wonderful thing. I love being an American citizen. But I don't agree on this. I just don't like somebody because they're not from here. Well, I'm not from here either originally. Well, I think there's like a 5% Indian in me, so part of me may be, but I'm just talking. There are some things that people get all head on, and it's not worth it. Friendships are lost. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just there's got to be a better way.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And there usually is another way. If you really want a different way, if you really want a relationship to work, then you can come up with some other ideas, some other way of dealing with it. And it doesn't have to be a head-on collision in order for you to work out a relationship. It can be just small things, small caring things that change the
Sometimes the
lives.
little things that kind of mess up a relationship
Oh
too.
yeah,
The
yeah.
tiny little
The
nonsense.
the tiny little things. I always remember somebody telling me this, that the little things are just symptoms that are from a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like like in a relationship, you're irritated because your husband leaves the cabinet door open all the time. But in reality, it has something to do with a bigger issue of living together and how do you deal with
Mm-hmm.
the differences between you.
Mm-hmm.
And that one little symptom, it may be just a little thing, but it's attached to the bigger
Mm-hmm.
thing. So you have to really, on a continual basis, no matter whether it's a marriage or a friendship
Mm-hmm.
or a business, you still have to have those conversations. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have difficult conversations where you can both see each other's sides and come to some conclusion about it, whether it's one or the other. And I'm like you, oftentimes I don't really care one way or the other. It doesn't
You
affect me.
win.
You
Go
you
for it.
got it, no problem.
It
But
doesn't happen a lot, but
no,
it does happen occasionally.
well, and I'm pretty open and free about
Yeah,
holding space for people to
yeah,
be who they
yeah.
are. So,
Because
but
that's the whole idea of being free.
yeah,
And if you bog somebody and you want them to believe exactly like you do, you're not letting that person be free at
mm-mm,
all.
no, no, not being free or themselves, and you're only accepting the part that you like about them,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you don't have to like everything they do, feel, and say, but really, it's about accepting them for who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's extremely important.
very important.
In a lot of your writing, she's an author and a speaker, and we'll talk about your books in just a few minutes. But I know there are several things you've written about, and it pertains to personality traits. And
Mhm.
they did say there were four personalities. I think they're finding we have more personalities now as time goes by. So,
Everything evolves.
oh, it
Psychology,
does.
everything. Yeah.
It does.
Hmm.
I'm still a driver when it comes to those personality traits, but as I'm getting older, they're still driver, but they're a little more the same. I mean, it's not such an extreme driver, like it used to be. You mellow a little bit with age. But how important is it to know the different personality traits, whether it be somebody you're married to, or whether it be any kind of a relationship, or maybe even the boss or coworkers?
I think it's important. It shouldn't be the only driving force, but it is important to have not complete, but you have a good understanding of those and be able to negotiate in terms of, even in a marriage, you're
Mm-hmm.
negotiating,
Yeah.
but you really need to know whether your partner is a laid back kind of, I don't really care kind of guy, or if they're, no, you better do it this way kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can appeal to them, have different ways of appealing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like your son may be a whole different story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you deal with them each individually. You can't have one way of dealing with everybody,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean it just doesn't work. So that it is important to have an
Well,
understanding of
in
it.
work relationships, out on the job there, I would imagine anyone who is a manager of any type has to deal with different people different ways because some, like me, you just tell me about it, and because and by the way, in the business world, I always loved rude customers. And most people did not like rude customers. So I was in this corporate world with GTE, and they would send the nasty, mean ones to me. And I would say, y'all, they're cutting half the work from you because you don't have to wonder what they're thinking about. and they're just emotional. I mean, they're not mad at you. That's not what they're just trying to get a point across, and they've probably been to 10 other people who wouldn't listen to
Mm-hmm.
them. And I happen to be the 11th person, and 10 people haven't listened to me, so I'm going to yell at you. And sometimes that's all it is.
Well, really, truly, it's absolutely. I'm glad you got to that point because
I love
one of the
loud
most.
moods. We're best friends.
So,
She's not rude,
but it's
but
about
she's loud.
me loud.
No,
No, um, no,
no, she's not.
um. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
So in relationships I mean, it's these different personality
Well,
traits.
it goes. No, that's not what I was going to say. I can't.
Sorry.
It was about your story about the last person, because that's it. Because our really deep desire is to be witnessed, to be known, to be seen and heard.
Mhm.
So if that person got to 4 or 5 other people before you and they weren't seen or heard, then you're going to hear it.
Mhm.
You're going to hear it. Just like your husband. He comes home from work. He wasn't heard at work, so he's going to be gripey at you.
Mhm.
And your job is to listen and witness.
Mhm.
And then he calms down, and then you can have a normal relationship.
Mhm.
But that's
Let
the
him
whole
get over
point.
that hump.
That's deep in the soul. I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I
Mhm.
want to be witnessed.
Mhm.
So that if I don't say anything else today, that's what I want to give
Mhm.
people, because that's basic to our humanity.
That's huge.
That's basic to our humanity.
Mhm.
In other words, even, we talk about inner child work. I'm going to go there.
Mhm.
Um, in order for us to be able to have a good relationship and be authentic as
Mhm.
adults, we have to know that
Mhm.
inner part of ourselves
Mhm.
that needs to be witnessed, seen, and heard.
Mhm.
And if you don't have a good relationship with that part of you, then you're not ever going to be authentic. You're going to be thinking that you're authentic,
Mhm.
but there's going to be a part of you that says that if they knew me, they wouldn't really like me.
Mm.
I mean,
And that's something that's deep. That
it's very
something
deep.
probably happened when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Trauma as a kid will do that. And,
Mhm.
I always joke and I say we're all traumatized because we came down that birth canal. That's trauma.
That was it
But
was
going
then.
going even further as you
Uh-huh.
progress, the people that are taking care of you, which are generally called your parents, they want to protect you, or that's part of their
It's
job is
perceived. That's what we
protection.
think.
Yes, it's protection, guidance, love. Those are the things that you need as a child.
Mhm.
And if you don't get that, then you start turning inwardly and telling yourself it's your fault that you're not getting that, because you can't have the outside world be unsafe. So you
Mhm.
make the outside world okay. And if the
Mhm.
outside world is telling you it's your fault, then you take that on and say, yeah, it's my fault. Because I can't be unsafe out here.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like we have to work through all of our stuff that's dumped on
Stuff.
us, all of our stuff, in order for us to get through to being our authentic selves. And that's really what it's all about.
That's how we survive.
That's how, yeah,
It's the
yeah.
survival of the fittest.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Can you believe we have to go into a commercial break? Half of the show is already gone. We'll be right back in just a minute. Y'all hang in there. We'll be right back. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
My Towels solved the problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
MyPillow.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna, and I am your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Now, that's Central Time for you folks in New York and in Los Angeles, wherever you're listening to us right now. But thank you again so much for watching. You know, you're the reason I do this. It's all, we're in this all together, right?
Mhm.
And so we have a show. It's just about many different things, but I like DeJoly when she's on the show too, because this helps me to think. Because sometimes I'm almost like the man in the family. I almost am, and I got to tell you this scenario. I know you heard this one. So Phil and I we were on a trip. We were going down the road one day, and we passed by Wendy's, and I said, "I like Frosties." He just kept driving, and I said, "Why didn't you stop?" And he said, "Stop where?" And I wanted a Frosty. And he said, "No, you didn't. You said you like Frosties." And I said, "No, I didn't." I said, "I wanted one." He said, "No, you said you like them." So then he starts turning around. I said, "I don't want one now. I had to beg you for it." And so I mentioned this on a show one day.
13-year-old girl.
A Christian, that's the 13-year-old here. I had a Christian counselor on, and so it was a man, and so he's talking about the difference between men and women. And I said, "No kidding," and I told him about that, and so I thought only women watched the show, so I started getting inundated by men sending messages to me saying, "But your husband is right. Why can't you women just say whatever it is that you have? I mean, why do you have to hint? It's constantly hinting." And so I really got it. So now I just say, "Hey, stop. There's a Frosties."
Well, I'm going to tell you, there's a book out that I really love. It's called Queen's Code, The Queen's Code,
Oh.
and it's nonfiction set in a fictional kind of way, where a woman is teaching her granddaughter about the difference between men and women, and that very same thing that you just said, it comes out really big and strong in there. So it's a way of communicating with each other and understanding the difference in communication, because men generally like to take care of your needs, whatever the needs are, whether it's to take out the garbage and all that. They need to know why. Like, oh, it makes me feel really good, and that you're hearing me when I say I need the garbage taken out. They like that. They like to fix things. You go into a conversation.
But I'm doing it my way. I don't want to fix.
Well, in general, I wasn't going to say in general, because you're the exception to the rule. But,
Yeah.
but in general, men like to fix things. You go into a conversation with them, and you're bearing your soul. You're just and they're saying, "What can I do to fix that?" That's their job. That's their innate. If you go back into prehistoric times, or historic times, the men are the fixers. The men are the ones who protect. And
I'm good with that. I really am. I think one thing that ruined me is I was a single mom for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And
you learn to be independent.
I learned to be very independent and making my own mind up about whatever. I could even change spark plugs. I mean, I could do stuff like that. And then Bill comes into the family, and he's a fixer. Yeah, I want to take care of you, my woman. It's one of those things, and I'm like, I can do it myself. Yeah, and he's looking at me like, "Where are you from?" But I totally get it, and actually, I've learned to like that. I didn't think I'd like that at first. I said, I think we made a mistake, but I like it now.
Well,
I like being
you have
treated
to
like
survive.
a lady.
Yes. Well, it's not necessarily as a lady, but it's different from being
Different
a man.
instincts.
Yeah.
Different instincts.
Just different. Yeah, it's just different. And that's good. That's okay. And that's good. That's like, not everybody's going to be a Donna.
You wouldn't want
it
that.
would be boring, right? Everybody would be fighting with each other.
No, I tell you, I love you all the time.
So
Let's talk
there's
about your books.
Oh,
and how
okay.
can folks find those? And speaking engagements, that kind of thing. How can folks get in contact?
They can contact me anytime about speaking engagements and the books. I've written 4 books, and they're out on Amazon, and the last one is on Kindle at Amazon, and then they can contact me for the hardbound, because I wanted it bound a certain way, and
now listen there, she's talking about me. I wanted it done a certain way,
and so I decided to do it myself. But my website is DeJoly.com, www.dejoly.com. I found out that you have to add that www,
Yeah.
otherwise it goes who knows where.
To wherever.
But anyway, dejoly.com. And I'm a coach, a life coach, and I also teach writing and coach writing. So it's kind of like coaching and teaching writing at the same time. Because I was saying earlier that you have to get to that inner part of you, that inner child, and have a good relationship with that part of you, and to develop that. And in order for you to write authentically, you have to know that part of you. You have to come to terms with the things that changed your life. And sometimes those are turning points in your lives, and those make good parts of the book, right? If you're writing a book or if you're writing an article or whatever, you have to speak from that authentic space of yourself. And that's where what I come in. You know, I have a couple of I don't know if I would call them courses, but I have a membership group where we meet every Friday, and we do some teaching. I do some teaching, and then there's some writing exercises and more teaching and talking, and so it's kind of like they get one-on-one talking with me about their writing and their work that they're doing on their inner work that they're doing, and then they move forward into writing their book and getting it published. So, you know, back in the day when I first started writing, you had to go through an agent and a publisher and an editor and all that stuff. And nowadays it's very common and actually acceptable, just as if you were, you know, a published author by by some agent, whatever, to do a self-publishing. And so I teach self-publishing as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but they can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. My name is DeJoly Labrier. And I think you probably have it on the screen. I don't know, but
It will
yeah.
be.
But I've been life coaching for almost 6 years now, and this new part of it, which includes the writing, is because I am passionate about writing. I didn't realize that my passion was so big until somebody says, "Do what you love to do," and I'm going, "I love to write. Oh, I could teach that. I could get people to the place where they don't have that self-doubt about what their voice is, and they can get to their authentic selves. And if they can get there, then they can write a book, and I don't have to write the book. I don't even have to go beyond the first chapter with them, you know, because they can do it from there."
Let me ask you a question. This is about journaling, because I journal everything. Garden. When did I plant that seed? I mean, just everything, any emotion I have, family issues, you know, those things. Not my hubs, but family issues. I like to put those down in a journal, and it tends to help me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing you mentioned to me.
Yes, I
You
know.
said Donna.
I know.
Donna, I listened.
Oh, good. Yeah, you listened about the breathing too.
Yeah.
But
breathe now.
journaling is actually one really good way to work through some of those issues that you have, because sometimes they start
There's my
out.
journal right there. It looks like.
Yes, I see it. Sometimes it starts out as a rant.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
99.9% of the time, yes.
Yes, and then if you look back at it and you say, now what did I get out of that rant? What did I actually mean by doing that? What was the lesson there? If you look at it and ask yourself about the lesson, then journaling can be very effective. And getting all that rant out is really effective too, because then Phil doesn't have to hear it.
Well, and then I don't say something that I can't put back in my mouth again, something I didn't mean to say. You know, and that's important too, because sometimes you'll unload that gun and there it goes and you can't put it back in. I mean, you just can't do it, and that can mess up a relationship.
It can totally mess it up. It can totally mess it up. But journaling is one. I play a game called Word Cookies, and sometimes just the words that they snap and they bring up an issue or something. You know, words. I can't even name one right now, but sometimes those video games that we play or the games that we play on the internet will help us also bring up issues, and journaling is one of the best ways to get rid of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what it does. I'm just telling you. And then again, you can go back, and sometimes I will think my feelings might be hurt about something. Then I jot it down in the journal and I go, really, what was I upset for? I mean, it's a good way to go back and question what your thoughts
Right,
are.
right. That's what I mean. What's the lesson
Mm-hmm.
from the rant?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and once you get past the rant, you can actually start being more um, positive toward yourself, you know, because what we do is we have a tendency to start saying, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Well, shouldn't isn't a very kind word to yourself or anybody else, but it's filled with judgment. Shouldn't is a judgment. And so when you can be non-judgmental about yourself, then you get closer to that inner peace and inner knowing that you are searching for.
You kind of redeem yourself.
Yes, you do.
So, okay, how important is this? Because, sometimes we don't give grace to people. And I've learned to give grace to people the older I get. So there is an advantage to getting older. But there would be somebody would do something and I would just go, well, I'm done with that. And I just, and do you feel giving somebody grace is almost like forgiving them, or is it anywhere close in correlation?
Well, I think it's a step before forgiveness, but I also think that giving people grace and giving yourself grace means that you aren't so harsh on yourself if you make a perceived mistake, because sometimes we say there's a good mistake and a bad mistake, or a good decision and a bad decision. I just say there's decisions, and we live with the consequences of our decisions, whether it's positive or negative, right? But grace is kind of like accepting and forgiving doesn't mean that you accept what somebody did. It just means that you don't have to carry that energy, that negative burden anymore. You let go of it. It's kind of like letting go. And if you do that, then you don't have to worry about whether it's right or wrong. It just is what happened. And there's a saying that says, just because you forgave somebody doesn't mean the actual thing didn't happen and that it didn't affect your life. But now it doesn't affect your life. It doesn't run your life, that particular experience.
Sometimes, based on the life wasn't a really good family life when I was growing up, but I never heard my parents say I'm sorry to each other. And I remember when I was a kid, I would say, when I get married, I'm going to say I'm sorry. And sometimes I go overboard. I mean, I thought that was crazy. I wish I hadn't said that. I'm sorry, but it is important to say I'm sorry every once in a while. And when I was a kid, I remember thinking, I'm going to say it. I'm going to get right in the middle of them, and I'm going to say I'm sorry, and just see if one of them would respond with an I'm sorry back.
Wow.
But how important
That's
is
a big one.
saying I'm sorry?
It is if it's real. It's very important if it's real.
I mean, you got to mean it.
Oh yeah. I'm a 12-stepper. I have been. I went through the 12 steps, and one of the things that they talk about is making amends. When you make amends, it means that you not only say you're sorry, but you act differently. You don't do the same thing again.
Yeah, right.
And oftentimes people say they're sorry, and then they go ahead and do it again because they haven't really integrated that I'm sorry. So if I'm saying I'm sorry is okay, but if you don't mean it, don't say it.
So is that where a narcissist steps in? Is that when the narcissist says I'm sorry but doesn't really mean it, and they're just saying it to try to get you to do something and draw you a little bit closer into them?
Yeah.
Is that what they do?
Yeah, they need your energy. Yeah. We've talked about that before.
I've been sapped before.
Yeah.
I'm talking sapped from the heart.
Yeah, they need your energy because they don't have it. And they suck their energy off of other people. And once you refuse to give them your energy, they'll go and find somebody else. So, but
that's why sometimes you have friends who come and go, maybe.
Yeah, well,
they feel like they've sapped off.
They've taken all they can take. They've taken everything out of you, and now they need somebody else. Yes, but yeah, it can be that. It can be narcissism. It can be a lot of different things. It could just be I'm having a bad day. I'm really not feeling it today, so I'm going to zap you.
As long as you don't do this every day.
That's
I mean,
right.
and I sort of get that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I had a boss one time. I actually had several bosses. He said, "I don't have to kick you in the rear. You do it to your own self."
Yeah, we do. We do. Most of the time,
Mhm.
we are
Yeah, if I didn't reach a
harsher.
deadline or
We're
if I
harsher
didn't,
on ourselves than we are on anybody
yeah.
else, and that
Uh-huh.
can change. We can change that. We can love ourselves,
Mhm.
but it just takes because we are so bombarded by negativity, whether it's the outside world or things that we've learned in our family, our culture, our society. We've learned all the negative things that we
Mhm.
are, when in
Mhm.
essence, really, we're not that. That's
Mhm.
just what's happened to us.
Mhm.
So our essence is beautiful, perfect, and kind.
Mhm.
And if we don't act from that space, which other people don't act toward us in that
Mhm.
way, then of course we're going to start saying, oh, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. And we end up being so negative about ourselves.
Uh-huh.
But we're always, in general, I shouldn't say always, we are most often harder on ourselves than we are on other people.
Mhm.
We're more apt to give other people grace and
Mhm.
forgiveness than our own selves.
Mhm.
So we, if we can break away and change our mindset so that we
Mhm.
don't look at what society has told us to do or
Mhm.
how society has told us to behave, then or to think about ourselves. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of things we could go in from this point, but if we don't take that on, if we can change that, if we can see ourselves in a loving way, then our behavior outwardly will reflect that, and it will ripple out into the world. It won't just
Mhm.
be held inside of you. I love myself. I love myself. I love
Mhm.
myself. No, it comes out of you into the world.
How important is it the way we raise our kids? Because I have a son, but how important is it we put the son ahead of me? And I've always done this. I've always, I want to make sure because I learn from mistakes, and I
Hmm.
and I and I learn from my parents' mistakes,
Hmm.
and how not to be. I can drive him crazy sometimes, and my daughter-in-law both by saying, "I love you, I love you." I mean, it's like I say it all the time to those two. So, but I feel like it needs to be said. I feel like that. Okay, you're watching television, you're watching the news nonstop, which I beg you not to do. Don't say. I mean, you got to know what's going on in the world, but don't dwell on it. Sometimes do we just dwell on like what happened over the weekend? With and things that are on the news. That's what they do. They sell you. They
Hmm.
sell you on having a bad day.
Hmm.
I know I'm part of the
That's
news
what's
organization. I know I am,
well.
but
That's what
I try
sells.
to
That's
find the good things.
negativity sells. I mean, if you go around saying positive things all the time, generally you won't
Nobody's gonna
find them on
listen.
the news. It won't
Mm-mm.
find, but if they only report negative stuff and every once in a while give you the good stuff, it's like, oh, I want some
Let
more
me
of
roll
that, and
that.
so I want to go back to that news station because I know sometime they're going to show me
Yeah.
something good, right?
Hmm.
What is that? But yeah,
But there's a thin line, though. I mean,
yeah.
you have to know what's going on in the world. I mean, it's important to know events that are happening as they're
Hmm.
unfolding them. But I mean, I have relatives who are just like nonstop. I mean, they sit there and watch it
Hmm. Hmm.
24/7, and they're the most unhappy people, and they're so argumentative. They never smile.
I
And
know.
I mean, you can't. I mean, again, there's
Hmm.
got to be a fine line.
Hmm.
How do you know when to make yourself stop? It could be from anything. I have a friend who over exercises.
Hmm.
I mean, she's constantly sore because she's just doing it over and over again. I have friends who don't eat anything, and I have friends who eat all the time. There has to be a happy medium in life.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, yes, there has to be, and that's when you find happiness.
Hmm.
But um, sometimes it takes work to get to that happy medium. And you can reach your bottom, like a lot of people say when you're in 12 step, you're alcoholic, you reach your bottom, and then you build up, right? But for a lot of people, they don't realize when they are at their bottom. You know,
Hmm.
they just keep going, and they don't even realize that they're unhappy. Like your family members who are always negative, they may not even realize they are. They may not, and they may not change.
But
And
sometimes it's easier to step in and tell a friend that you see it than it is a relative. So how can you, and nobody wants to be bossy, nobody wants to tell anybody what to do, but sometimes you can see somebody, they're about to go off a cliff and you want to stop them before they go off. How do you do it? Not being nosy.
Nosy, not being nosy. That was good.
That's important though, because if people feel like you're telling them what to do, they feel like you're bossing them, they're not going to listen.
Mm-mm. No.
There has to be a way.
Well, well, and there is a way. It's when you go inside yourself and say, what is the reason? What is my motivation
Mhm.
for telling that person that they're about ready to go off a cliff? What is my motivation? Is it because I love that person, or is it because I feel responsible for them? There's a whole
Right.
difference. There's a whole difference there.
Mhm.
If it's because you feel responsible, then you have to get to a place of I love them before you tell them they're going off a cliff, and they may jump before you tell them,
Mhm.
right? And then that's accept. You just
Mhm.
accept that they are in charge of their life and you're in charge of yours.
Mhm.
And once you get to that place and you have love in your heart, and you see somebody that's about ready to jump, and you say, it's because I love you, this is why I want to tell you this, but not because you feel guilty if you don't tell them, and not because you feel obligated, but because you love them. There's love wins, period. That's it.
Mhm.
Love wins all the time.
Well, what do you say to the person who just wants to save the world? Does any one person have enough energy to want to just, I want to make everybody's life better? I mean, and that's a
I'd say
good
go
thing.
look at your issues.
Yeah, true.
It is.
But when is
Why
enough
is it?
enough? I mean, if it's, and I've seen ministers do this, and they mean wonderful things. I mean, they really do. But then their wife's suffering because they're not with the wife enough, and then their kids are like the meanest kids on earth. I'm saying this because my dad used to be a minister, and people say, "Oh, you're one of those PKs," and I said it's because we play with the deacons' kids. But but no, really, this is where it
Yes,
all
yeah.
is, because I mean, a lot of people who are out there to save the world forget about their own families.
And then it still goes back to what's your motivation. What is your motivation? Can you be the example for the world, for your congregation, by having a real loving close family?
Mhm.
Or do you have a horrible family and you're going outside of yourself because you can't get it from here and you don't have it with your family? Go outside yourself to save the world. Look back, go back and look to what your motivation is. Why are you doing this? And if it's love, that's one thing. But if it's because you feel obligated to make sure that they know your your opinion about the world and how it should go, not going to work.
But there are some people, like you're one of my friends, that I would take advice from, and I really feel like you love me enough. If you saw I was about to fall off the cliff, you would grab me and tell me, and I would appreciate you doing that. If you didn't tell me, I would think, well, she doesn't really think that much of me, does she? But I know you would, and we got that
Well, we
closeness.
could have a conversation,
Hmm.
and then I would say it's up to you.
Hmm.
I don't tell people what to do. I just say, have you thought about this? What's the other option? Have you looked at that? I'm the kind of person who just gives you options, and you are free to be who you are. And if you decide to jump off that cliff, I'll put a mattress down at the bottom for you.
And she would say that, but it would
And
make
I'll
me
say
think.
bye.
It would make me think. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it
yeah,
really would.
yeah. You have to, ultimately, we're responsible for, you said you were independent. You're responsible for your own happiness. You can't find you can
I can't
think,
blame my unhappiness on anybody
no,
else,
no,
no matter what the circumstances
no,
were,
no, no.
because you
Can't.
can always make that choice.
That's right. Always.
Hmm.
You always have choice.
Hmm.
You may think you don't, but if you really think about it and you really get deep and think about it, then you know you have choice and you've made the decision not to make a decision.
Hmm.
Or you've made a decision to make this decision as opposed to that one. Okay, so now you have consequences of your decision.
Hmm.
Goes back to that.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to bring this up to you as well. So there was another scenario that happened, and sometimes you make decisions about stuff, and people think that's the wrong decision. You shouldn't do that. So I'm a Christian, so I owned a business, and there was a guy who was a Muslim right by me. He had an ice cream shop, and so he would pray to Allah every day. And so I had a customer who came in and said I'd be slamming doors, I would be doing this, I'd be doing that, and I said, why would I do that? I mean, that makes no sense for me to do that.
Mhm.
And I said, if he ever thought about being a Christian, he'd never come to me if I were rude to him acting like that. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so then the guy, we kind of turned into friends. And so this guy would come by. He would actually do this. Now he would probably have an issue with his Muslim folks, but he would actually come to me at Christmas and say Merry Christmas to you. And then he would come to me and then he would say Happy Easter to you. He would actually say that. So we kind of bonded, even though we were worlds apart on
Mhm. Mhm.
most everything. But that common thing is we thought about each other.
Mhm.
You know, what would that other person
Kindness
think?
and love.
Uh-huh.
Kindness and love.
I've often wondered what happened to him. He was a good neighbor,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
Hmm. It's all about not being, I think part of it, I know from my past, part of it is I didn't understand the other person.
Mhm.
And
the culture.
fear drives you to
Mhm.
do stupid things and to say stupid things.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it
Oh
really
yeah.
does. And just not having the understanding and not knowing what that person is all about.
Hmm. And I'm going to take you back to when you were born. You didn't have fear. You didn't have anger. You didn't have hatred. You didn't have prejudice.
Mhm.
So all of that, if you can go back to that place of innocence, then you can get from there out into the world and have good relationships. But it takes fighting through all of the stuff that gets thrown on us and we absorb
True.
through our society, through our culture, through our family, through school, through, you know. So we have, it has to be conscious. You have to have an intention of changing your mindset and going back to that innocent space. Whenever you deal with yourself or anybody else, be in that innocent, loving space because it's all about you.
And again, it's freedom.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
man,
Oh,
that feels
yes.
good. It feels good just to release
Yeah.
all that fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another way I used to perceive death is different than now. I have really. We bought my grandparents' farmhouse, the money pit, by the way. We spent a lot of money on this
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and but I would still do it. But a lot of people have said, do you feel weird leaving your grandparents? And I said, no. It's like we had this really awesome closeness.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we'll do something in the house, and I'll say, we call my grandparents Mama and Papa, and I would say, what do you think Mama and Papa would say about this, Phil? And he'd say, oh, they'd like it. And my granddad was a farmer, gardener, and so this is like I mentioned in the first part of the show. This is like sandy, rocky. I mean, it's a horrible place to grow, but he could always grow things, even on this land. So we started, and he always liked innovative new things. So we put these raised gardens up, and I said, "What do you think Papa would say about these raised gardens?" He said, "You kidding? Your Papa would love that idea, without having to dig rocks up all the time." And that's the neat thing about them is they always wanted a better way of doing things, and if you could show me a better way, please be a friend and tell me.
There you go.
Absolutely. 1 minute, 46 seconds left. What do you want to tell everybody before you go?
Wow. What I want to tell everybody.
You just said a lot.
I did a whole lot. I said a whole lot.
How can folks find you again?
Oh, okay. I think the best way to find me right now is on DeJoly.com or on Facebook. And they can also reach me at Instagram. And they can always text you and say, how do I get a hold of her again?
I got her on speed dial.
Yeah. And yeah, that's basically it. And I'm open to any kind of conversation. I do like going to different places and speaking. I like live audiences. I've spoken at churches and universities and different workshops and conferences about a variety of things, as we've covered a variety of things here. But I've come from a background of that I've learned about and I've spoken out about, and I'm willing to talk about pretty much anything.
There you go.
Motivational.
If you want it unvarnished to the truth, there it is.
There you go.
Thank you so much for watching. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast, thenewscasters.com, and please send email. I love it. You absolutely make my day when you do that. Negatives, positives, how you think I could do better, whatever. I like to hear it all. You're actually helping me grow. So I appreciate you doing that. Donna at donnasedge.com. Thank you, DeJoly.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.